In this video, I'm going to show you how to cut foam core. And this is a 1/4 inch foam core here. And it can be pretty difficult if you don't know some tips and tricks. Now this is just how I do it, how I found after cutting out lots of foam core throughout my life, how I found that this is easier to do. And it can be quite a chore. I use an X-Acto knife and I make sure the blade is brand new. And I prefer the one that has the very thin tip to it as opposed to the other shapes that you can get. So I have a brand new X-Acto knife. Make sure it's really tight in here because you don't want this to slip. And I'm going to show you how I do, first of all, straight cuts are easy. That's super easy. I just simply place my blade on the foam core to the edge. And then what I do is, instead of having it straight up and down, I tilt it at a diagonal. So it's slightly off to the side. And then I raise it up off the surface. And I prefer to even go off of the edge on a side of a table like this and do it. But I'll show you that in a minute. But I want to be in the plane here, the picture plane, so you can see. So I do it off to the side. Let me bring it in closer so you can see a little bit better. And it's a slight angle. You can see that this has already been cut here. I find it's easier than straight on. So it's slightly at an angle, and I'll just do a straight cut here. And it just slices right through like butter. Now the tip has pierced both sides at the same time. That's why I like the long skinny points. And then I just simply straight cut it. And it cuts right through like butter. And you want a nice clean cut like this. Now for the curves, this is a little bit more challenging. And right now I'm cutting out some of these large scale fish. So it has lots of beautiful curves in it. So what I do is first of all, I want to slice through. If I'm going to have to go in and around like this on this shape, I'm going to slice through just to the tips of all the shapes here. That's my first slice. So I'm going to come around, come off the side, and I'm going to just do right to the tip. Yeah, you can see. And right to the tip, and I go right on around my curve here. Now, I'm not going to go in here yet. Just right along the edges. So I come right to the edge of the shape, and then this fancy stuff I'm going to cut out later. So now I'm going to show you how I then cut inside. So the first cut is just to the edges of your sketch or your design. The second cut, now again, slightly at an angle, bring it in. And once it reaches, now I've just flipped the angle of it. Slightly at a diagonal, I go to the point, then I'm going to turn it. I'm going to turn it better. I have better leverage this way. And then, see, I prefer it off the table for cuts like this. Let's see if you can see that. Yep, you can. So then I'm coming in sideways, curving it. And notice my hands, the hand I'm holding is in front of the blade. You never want to have hands behind the blade. Of course, use all of your safety precautions for X-Actos, and I'm not going to go over that. You want to do common sense. So I bring that cut in to there. Now I'm going to do the same in here. I'm going to do this section first. So I'm going to come off my table. To start, I kind of did a little saw action up and down. And then I'm going to bring it in. And I'm holding it with good force, a lot of pressure here. And I'm sliding it around. Again, at a slight, now I'm moving my hand because I don't want my hand down here where the blade's going to come. And it's slight pressure. And I'm going to go right to the spot. And I went over a little bit of the cut. That way when I come around, it's going to meet. I'm going to bring this down and around. Now for this cut, I'm going to do 2 of them. I'm going to come in. I'm going to support it here. I'm going to come through here, right to here, so the piece comes out. And then I'm going to do this part. let me see. Let me blow it up so you can see it. And then I'm slightly sawing, and then bring it right around, like that. So my cuts are clean and evened, right here. And I'm gonna do the same for this. To start, slightly saw, and then cut through, and it cuts just like a butter. I don't want any frayed areas. Now, to cut this little area, what I'm going to do is just find a starting point, press in, do a little saw to get started. I'm keeping this blade at an angle, bring it to this point, then I'm going to turn, I'm going to saw, just so that I can get it at a nice, when it's tight like this, you can saw quite a bit up and down, that up and down action. Now I'm going to connect, put it in, and just slide it to it. This I'm going to pull out. I'm going to cut this piece off here. I want it to be as clean and crisp as I can. Now I'm going to flip around. I forgot which ones I did. Put it down, in at an angle, and saw. So it comes out nice. Now I'm not going to separate these two. This is going to be ended up being painted with a thick black line, so I can be off a little bit on my cuts. And I'm going to keep it together just to give more strength to this. But here I come down. I'm going to curve in, stop. This is a really big, awkward piece to cut. I'm going to support it with my hand here. Normally I would go to the other edge of the table. There. And that's basically how I cut through foam core. And it's almost like cutting through butter once you get it started. Let me show you on this area here. I'm going to support it here. You just let it slide right through. And take your time and go slow. Keep it diagonal. And then it just slides. I don't like the areas that have a little rough fraying. And if I do find some of that, I come back and just trim it then. Right off. You don't want all that fraying. There. Okay. I'm going to show you how I do this smaller area. I come off of the curve, blend it right down, and I stop probably 1/8 of an inch actually after. So I stop about 1/8 of an inch after the line. And then for this little tiny area, I'm just going to press in, and then the piece pops right out nice and clean. So I'm coming off this curve. Make sure you can see. Right here, it slices at I'm holding it slightly at a diagonal. I'm going to get the top of this one a little bit better here because this isn't on my line. Then I'm going to come down, slice it at a diagonal, and then I'm pressing the point in on the corner, right to the other corner. And it should pop right out. Now this, I want to fix this a little bit because I want this shape to be perfect. So I'm just slicing that off. And this I'm going to slice off too. I'm going to support this with a piece of foam core, scrap foam core, so I don't slice into my table here. Right there to shave off a better shape. And that is how I cut foam core out simply with an X-Acto knife.